Hey everybody, it's David Leland. Welcome back to San Diego Sports Insight. Here we're gonna recap the spring training Cactus League for our San Diego Padres and preview the 2021 season. So the Padres finished the Cactus League play with a 12-13-2 record. Doesn't really mean much, just kind of an interesting note. For the most part, I like what I saw. The injuries are a concern. We'll get into that, but there's a lot of positives and a lot to be excited about after an exciting offseason. Start off, we're going to do the pitching, then go into the position players. I'm going to start off with the rotation. Darvish, obviously got him along with his personal catcher, Victor Caratini from the Chicago Cubs for Zach Davies and a bunch of teenage international prospects right before the new year. Darvish, he kind of struggled against Texas, but they said he was like working on stuff, not necessarily pitching like he would a normal game. And every other start, he looked really good. Stuff certainly looks good. I don't think he'll be as dominant as he was in 2020 because he faced only weak Central Division teams because it was all regional play last year. I mean, one of the few lineups that wasn't yikes last year in those two Central Divisions was his own. So, yeah, so he faced pretty weak competition last year, but he's been pretty solid ever since Caratini started catching for him regularly in the second half of 2019. So he should be pretty solid for us. Probably low to mid threes ERA. He'll strike out over 200 guys in about 180 to 190 innings, I'd say. I don't think he's the best pitcher on the team, though, because, man, I think Blake Snell looks like he did when he won the Cy Young in 2018. He's got nasty stuff. Dude's got an edge to him when he's on the mound. He's a competitor. Didn't allow a run all spring. Stuff looked great. Really excited for Blake Snell. Joe Musgrove, the local kid, Grossmont kid who we got from Pittsburgh. He looked great this spring. Had just the other day against Cleveland, 5 no-hit innings with 6 strikeouts. Overall, pretty good spring. One outing wasn't so great. Didn't get a lot of help from his defense in a couple outings, though. But overall, like what I saw, I've talked about Morejon before on here. He really showed a lot of growth to me this spring training. The composure, he didn't let anything snowball on him like we saw in the past. And it seemed like as the spring went on, he got better and better with his control and command. I believe he had 11 strikeouts and only 2 or 3 walks in his last 2 starts of the spring, which was like 7 1/3 innings, I think. So that's really good to see. He's improving his command and control, and the stuff's always been there. He's not letting anything snowball on him anymore. I'm very happy with what I saw from Morejon growth-wise this spring. There are a couple concerns there, though. One of them's Chris Paddack. After the first couple starts of spring, I was like, maybe we got the Chris Paddack of 2019 back, especially when they were talking about how he was getting more into the analytics, like of his fastball, and he was throwing some more curveballs that were looking good. But last 2 starts of the spring were just brutal. And was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday against Colorado's backups, pretty much. The only guy I even recognized the name of that they had in the lineup was Garrett Hampson, and he's not very good. And they bombed Paddack. It was frustrating. The command wasn't there. He was leaving the ball over the plate. Well, I'm concerned about Chris Paddack. I don't really know what we have in him. It's concerning. Mackenzie Gore, he's not. I'm still optimistic long-term on him, but he kind of disappointed this spring with the command and control problems. He's got to get that ironed out down at the alternate site and then ultimately AAA when the minor league season starts. But I feel good about him long-term, but short-term, he's just not ready. Weathers, he was kind of this spring, but they really like him. I really like him. He'll probably be in the bullpen, maybe 6th starter in the 2nd or 3rd week of the season when we have all those off days lumped together. I really think that, though, that Paddack's on thin ice, and if he struggles and Morejon pitches well when Lamet comes back 3rd, 4th week of the season, that Paddack might be the one that goes down to AAA or alternate site and Morejon stays and Morejon does well. Moving on to the position players, unfortunately, we got Austin Nola out to start the season because of the fractured finger on his hand from the foul ball. But I'm not concerned about that because Camp Usano I'm a big fan of. He had a good spring. Him and Victor Caratini can hold down the fort until Nola returns, which won't be that long. First base, Hosmer continued to play pretty poor defense this spring. His hitting started to come on late in the spring. He'll be fine there, but man, the defense has got to improve. Cronenworth, he had a really good year last year, rookie year. I thought maybe he might take a step back, but he had a pretty good spring. I think he'll be solid for us. I think he might be good hitting second. in between Grisham, when he comes back, we'll get into his injury situation later, and Tatis, and then Machado and Hosmer getting on base. He had a good spring, like what I saw there. Machado, he didn't hit much, but he's Manny Machado. He'll be ready for the season. He'll be good to go. Tatis, man, he continues to look great. He's healthy after that little bit of scare with the shoulder last week, but he's good to go, and we'll see him out there when the season starts, being Fernando Tatis Jr. It's going to be exciting. Left field, Pham went from a huge concern at the start of spring to a, wow, this guy might have a good year. Once he got the situation fixed with his contact lens, he just started ripping the cover off the ball, seeing the ball better. So good to see from Tommy Pham. Still concerned about the durability there just because he pushes himself so much and he seems kind of fragile. And put that together with how much he pushes himself, he's probably going to get hurt, but fingers crossed, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. Center field, this one's a little bit of a concern to me because we don't really have another center fielder besides Trent Grisham on the roster, and Grisham's out to start the year. Hopefully it's not too long, but they don't really have another center fielder. They're going to try probably Pham or Profar or maybe Mateo out there, but you just can't replace Trent Grisham. He's the leadoff hitter. He's a Gold Glove center fielder defensively. You can't replace that. So hopefully it's a short absence for Grisham. It doesn't linger, because if there's one thing that can derail the Padres, it would be something like Grisham's hamstring injury dragging out and leaving them without a key piece for a while. Right field, Will Myers continued to rip the cover off the ball, continued to show that new attitude that he's really had since Jay Stingler came over. He seems more engaged. He's having more fun. He's going to have another good year. Now, he had a 960 OPS in the 60-game season. He won't maintain that over a full season, but I think he's good for 35 homers and 20 stolen bases. He'll probably have like an 860, 870 OPS, so I expect a good year out of him. Now, if someone were to get hurt, say Pham, like I was talking about earlier, or Myers has had a couple seasons where he's been hurt, then they have guys that can fill in. I mean, Profar filled in well last year for Pham when he was hurt, and I expect him that he could do the same this year if somebody went down. Kim, he kind of had a slow start to spring, came on a little bit lately. I'm not worried about him though, because those foreign guys, when they come over to their first spring in the States, that's a tough transition both to the game and the culture. So it takes them a while to get going. I'm not worried about Kim. He should fill in nicely if an infielder were to get hurt. Talked about the catching situation. I almost think you should keep 3 catchers just because Nola can play first against a tough lefty, because Hosmer's not very good against lefties. So then you could have that flexibility. And with pitchers hitting this year, you need a pinch hitter, and Camby Sano will be a nice bat to have off the bench. Jorge Mateo, I wasn't high on him at the start of the spring, but he came on with the bat second half of the spring, and that's a nice speed element off the bench. Can swipe a base for you, go first to third on a single, score from first on a gapper. That's a nice speed element to have off the bench. Now, while I'm a big fan of Tucupita Marcano as a prospect, I disagreed with putting him on the opening day roster over Brian O'Grady, for the simple fact that I liked what O'Grady could have brought as a left-handed power bat off the bench, first base and outfield, maybe even center field. He surprised me with his athleticism, including a stolen base he had last weekend against the Angels. So I was high on Brian O'Grady. I really wish he would have made the team over Marcano, so Marcano could have gone regular at bats, and O'Grady seems like a perfect bench player to me. But if there's injuries, you'll see O'Grady up here. You'll see him in San Diego at some point this year. I think that's a given. Going on to the bullpen now. Good for Nabil Crismatt after a great spring to make the team. I don't expect him to have a huge role, but he showed he can get guys out. Stammen was whatever this spring, but he'll be Stammen. He'll pitch in games that aren't super close in like the middle innings. We got a lot of other guys. Pierce Johnson and Austin Adams are starting on IL, but it sounds like those guys will be back fairly soon. It sounds like Javi Guerra is not going to be back soon. Obviously, Jose Castillo had the Tommy John, which is really unfortunate because I really liked his upside. That's really unfortunate to see that with him, but you just can't count on him anymore. Strom didn't even pitch in the Cactus League games because of the knee surgery. Don't expect to see him for a while, but bullpen, I think we're mostly all right. because Tim Hill's good. He had a nice spring for the most part. He's good against left-handed batters. Johnson will be back soon, and he's a nice piece out there. And then the back of bullpen, I'm not super high on Melanson just because the strikeouts were way down last year. He's getting up there in age. I don't really think he's that good anymore, but he's a veteran. He knows how to pitch, so he won't be too bad. I'm really intrigued by the back of the bullpen, though. I don't like that Emilio Pagan is going to be the first guy to get a chance at being the closer because we just don't know what we have with him. Is he going to be Mariners Pagan, A's Pagan, Rays Pagan, or last year's Pagan? We just don't know. He's so inconsistent year to year. And I don't know. I just don't like that out of the closer spot. I do like that it seems that Drew Pomeranz is being used in the Andrew Miller in Cleveland kind of role where he comes in and gets into the biggest spot of the game no matter who's up. Because if we're facing the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium and Corey Seager, Max Muncy, and Cody Bellinger are due up, I want Pomeranz in the game then. I don't care if it's the 7th inning or the 9th inning. I want Drew Pomeranz in the game right there because that's when the game's on the line with the big lefty sluggers coming up. So I like that. I think a guy that really watched, and this is a guy I think should have been the closer, is Keona Kela. Kela really impressed me this spring in 2 ways. One, because other than one outing against the Giants, he had a great spring, got a lot of strikeouts, showed off that nasty stuff he's got. And number 2, I think the whole he's a cancer, he's got an attitude problem that followed him from Texas and Pittsburgh. I think either A, he's changed since then and learned from his mistakes, or B, he was misunderstood because so far in all his interviews, seems like a good dude. Seems like if he had trouble in the past, he's learned from it. And another thing to note is that Jace Tingler and AJ Preller know him from Texas. So, and Joe Musgrove was teammates with him in Pittsburgh. So I'm sure they did their homework. And if there was a problem, Musgrove would have said, no, he's an awful teammate. You don't want this guy around. And Tingler and Preller know him from Texas. So they'll probably know how to keep him in line if there was issues in the past, but I don't see that being an issue based off the interviews I heard with him this spring. I haven't heard anything bad about him this spring, so that's good to see. All in all, pretty excited for the season. On paper, I think this team is really close, if not better than the 1998 team. Unfortunately, the 1998 team didn't have much competition in the division. This team has the defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers who signed Trevor Bauer. Yeah. Anyways, still should be a good season for the Padres. I'll go 96-66. First wild card in the National League. Not going to make a prediction for what happens in the postseason because anything could really happen from there. It'll be a tough wild card game, so we'll probably face Jacob deGrom and the Mets in the wild card game. And then obviously the Dodgers in the division series, and the Atlanta Braves are pretty damn good too. And they're also going to be up there. So it'll be tough to get to the World Series when we get there, but this team certainly has the ability to do it. I can't wait for this season. I know this is kind of a longer video for my standards. Thanks for listening, guys. Go Pods.